Hi, in today's video we'll see how to perform the error handling in Talend. So there are two ways. The first one is using the dedicated components provided by the Talend Studio, and the other one is using the connection between the two subjobs. So when it is connection, it is on component open error and it is on subjob open error. And the last one is the triggering condition. Using the triggering if condition, you can pass the job or you can fail the job. But in today's video, we'll see in detail how to perform the error handling using the Talend inbuilt components. So we have three sets of component. The first one is the tAssert and the asset catcher, and the second one is the tDie, tWarn, and tLogCatcher. And the second one, most of you might have been used in your job. And the last one is the tFlowMeter and tFlowMeterCatcher. So now let's discuss in detail with the example like how it works in Talend. So this is the tAssert catcher. So here what we do is with the help of the tRow generator, we are generating some random records and we are writing to the t file output delimited file, and in the tAssertCatcher, so you are defining a condition. So this file should contain 10 records, and whatever exception we get from the tAssert component, it will be captured in the tAssertCatcher and you will display in the tLogRow. So we got the output. See, the condition is okay. So what it means is, so every time you run the job, this file should contain 10 records. So if it is equal to 10, then it will give you the status as success or okay. Now let's negative scenario. So instead of 10 records, we'll make it as some 9 or 8. I mean less than 10. So now it should fail. I mean the job should run, but logically it should fail. So you should see some different error message. See what happened if the file count, so only 9 records got processed, but if you see your if condition, it should be equal to 10. So but it's not equal. So if you see here status, when earlier it was okay, now it is failed, so it is logically failed. So when it will be used is, so you have a business requirement, so every time you read a file or a metadata file, so it should contain certain number of records. If the source file does not contain the expected output, you can uh, log that error message in some kind of a table or using a file. So to logically fail your job, or to capture that error message, we can use this tAssert catcher. You can also do with the help of the if conditions, but we have the inbuilt component, so you can make use of that. So here after tLogRow, you can have some DB components, to capture that. This is one of the scenario to just check the count of the records, and the other one is we can check the file exist. So what two scenarios. So what we do is, in the first scenario, we see if the file has a number of records equal to 10. And the second scenario is we'll see if the file exists. So what we do is, so first we are generating the file. So once the file is generated, we'll see if the file exists or not. If you see the condition, uh, the file exists. So you can, these are the global variables you can get with the help of control and space. So one subjob can have multiple asset catcher, asset component, and you can use a single asset catcher to capture all the exceptions of the asset component. So now when you run this job, what would happen is, this condition should fail and they should pass. Because here in the TE row generated, you are having only 9 rows, but the condition is expecting 10. They should fail. And the second one is when we have the file and the file is exist. So now let's run the job. Okay, so if you see here, and the first criteria is, the tAssert. So how to differentiate which one is pass or fail? So you can use the component name, the tAssertCatcher one. So if you see this expression, it should be equal to 10, but we have 9 records. So the first one is failed, test logically failed. The third one is okay. So the third one expression you can see here. So you can all store somewhere in the database tables, or you can read it from a file. So this component is used to logically fail the job and some kind of exceptional handling. So we can use it. Now the second one is tDie, tWarn, and tLogCatcher. So by now, like most of you might be aware of this component, but let's see in brief like how it works. So in this scenario, like we have a file. Mm, So using the t file input delimited, we read the delimited file, and then using tmap we have some mappings. Then finally we write to the t output delimited. So what happens? Okay, so first one is if we write, and if you see this condition, if the file count is equals to 0, so you should raise some kind of warning. If you see this warning message, file has a lesser records, please check the data processing. So what happens in this case? You no need to. The requirement is you have a job which reads data from the source and it loads. During processing, if the count is not expected and if the count is mismatched, you can raise it as a warning instead of, based on the requirement, instead of killing the job, you can use the warning message. But if you see here, the test logically failed, but you're not getting the custom messages. Even though if it is failed, but it's not telling clearly why it's failed. So those you can cover from the tWarn component. See, we have only 0 records. So the condition what if the count is equal to 0, so means 0 records got processed. If you see here, if you see the log message, priority is 4. It's a warning the file has less records. Please check the data processing. And here you can define the error message and the error code and the priority. So you can have multiple codes. If this code is equal to 2, it has less records, and you can have multiple warning here based on the conditions. If it is more than one record, so here you can use multiple T1 condition based on the requirement. So in the first condition, if it has 0 records, you can tell less number of records. And based on your other condition, you can have one more if condition. And if it has some other warning message, you can write that warning and you can print that. So in this scenario, if it is less records, just we are printing it as a warning and displaying in the console. But the same requirement, instead of showing that as an instead of showing that as a warning, you need to kill the job. So that time you can go for the tDie component instead of T1. You just like have the tDie component with the same condition. So the difference between T1 and tDie is T1 just it will displays a warning message. The tDie will kill the job and it will come out of the JVM. So you can see the error message from which component it's triggering. The file has 0 records. Please check the data processing. So the code is 1 and 2 here. So you can enable both T1 and tDie based on your requirement. So what you can do is enable T1. So if it is 0 records, you can process and you can fail it, telling it has 0 records. And if it is greater than 1, then you can show it as a warning message. So you can have multiple conditions like tWarn and tDie. So now when you run this job, it will not display as a warning, but only it will fail here because the condition now it's different. If it is zero records, you fail it, and if it is greater than one or greater than zero, then you display that as a warning message. And the other most important component is the tLogCatcher and the tLogRow. So whenever you use the tLogCatcher, I mean you need some output components like the DB components or the file components or the tLogRow to display the content in the output or in the console. So if you see here, I mean every time when you use the tDie and tWarn component, you need to enable this tick mark catch tDie and tWarning messages. But if you uncheck this one, even though if it fails, it will not be printed here. So I'll show you that. See the job is failed, but it's not displaying any records. Here if you see it will display in the console, but you'll not get anything when you write to the DB output or the DB components. So every time when you use the tDie, just make sure that you enable. By default it will be checked, but still, I mean you can double check that by enabling this catch tDie and tWarn. So this catch Java exception by default, this will be enabled when you click on the die on error component. So for example, you can see here. So I'm just so this file does not exist. So now when you run this job, it will not fail from this component. So I mean the difference between the Java exception and the tDie is so this is mostly like a runtime, I mean a runtime kind of exception which cannot be captured. So for many reasons it can fail. So this kind of a tDie component and tDie, we want to fail the job manually for so for some kind of custom logic. So now let's see the Java exception. I mean this kind of things cannot be handled. So like we keep this all exceptions rate in Java. It is similar to like that. Okay, the job did not fail. Die on error. I'll keep someone. It should fail now. Okay, before that, let's verify if this file exists or not. Okay, no files. See, now the job failed. If you see the error message, the system cannot find the specified path. So this is the difference between the Java exception and the tDie component here. But again, if you uncheck this one, if you do not want to capture those kind of exceptions, you can uncheck here. So this is all about the tDie and tWarn. Now let's see the tFlowMeter. So this is mainly used in the data processing again. So in the source input, like you have some number of records, like and but after the tmap or after some kind applying some kind of logic, you will see lesser number of records. For example, here you might have had some 100 records. After the condition applied, you will have lesser records. Then what will happen is in the tFlowMeterCatcher, it will tell you like how many records was there in the source and how many records got processed in the target. So if you see this flow, so we have one or two records from the source system, and all the records are being passed in the tFlowMeter. If you want to use this component, you need to use the two. You need to use two times. One is before and after. So this one we can consider as source data before, and after some kind of transformation, we got only 10 records. If you see the T map, we have applied a certain job. We applied some condition. So based on this condition, only 5 records got processed, and in the tFlowMeterCatcher, it captured exceptions. See here, so the source data had a count of 112 records, and the target system had 5 records. Now I'll give you the high level difference between the tAssert, tDie, and the FlowMeter. So in the first tAssert, what happened? We can logically fail the job. It tells test logically failed, but it's not giving the customized error message, even though it has. So you need some 10 records. It has 9 records. It failed, but it's not giving the error message. But with the tDie, what happened? Uh, you can kill the job. You can get some kind of custom message. The file has lesser records, but it's not giving you the count like how many records it's less. This is with the tDie and tWarn. But if you see the tFlowMeter, if you it's giving you the count, what was the source count and how many records got processed. So if you use all this component in your single job with the help of tAssertCatcher, tDie, and this tFlowMeterCatcher and this kind of if conditions, we can do the better exceptional handling. Thank you.